So when you do manage to open yourself up to other people, there can be this very happy. We've talked about how it can be involve suffering and certainly, but there can also be this happy coincidence between attending to the other and giving them the gift of that attention,
Yeah.
but also it opens you up to this much richer sense of presence, depth, of vitality.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
Marcel is not an easy writer for different reasons than Desmond. Marcel is super digressive. It can be very frustrating to read Marcel. I'm not the only person that
Yeah.
has said this. Any kind of overview of Marcel you read will say he starts down an interesting chain of thought and then he has an aside, an aside. It can be very frustrating as a reader. I was interested about this first thing,
Yeah.
but if you do stick with him long enough, then he'll come back to it,
Yeah.
often in a richer way.
Yeah.
But it can be a really hard
Yeah.
way to it can be a very acquired taste, his philosophical writings.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. I've noticed that with Marcel.
Yeah.
And you get one of the things that I know that he had host in, I would have been, it was Paris, right? He would host these
Yeah.
dialogues. Like he had a weekly
Yeah.
thing, right? Where a bunch of the major existentialists and different artists and stuff that would go to. So he was deeply into the conversational mode, the dialogical, right? The
Yeah.
dialogos, if you will, right? You can get that sense of, I sense that in the aliveness of his writing, right?
Yeah.
And
And
also,
I think it's also
yeah,
he wrote plays, right? And what are plays but dialogues, right? They're
yeah,
conversations. So I
yeah,
think it comes through in there as well.
yeah,
But yeah, he had a remarkable influence on thinkers of his generation. At these salons he would host, he introduced Levinas to Sartre. It was a who's who of people that would show up at these gatherings to talk to each other.
imagine.
Uh, and I think Marcel, he's certainly a thinker that's never totally fallen out of the conversation.
Yeah,
But I do think he's someone that has suffered from the sense that his best insights were folded into and improved by Levinas, which not to take anything away from Levinas, who's a great thinker. I don't think that's fair to Marcel
yeah,
or to Martin Buber, who I think sometimes maybe less so than Marcel, but suffers similarly.
yeah,
In fact, I think one thing that Marcel and Buber offer that's I find, and Desmond has pointed out too, maybe suppler and richer than Levinas is that Levinas, the relationship with the other is always so asymmetrical that you're brought low by the other.
yeah,
And sometimes that's a real dynamic, and there can be something that's important there. It's one possibility. But this conversation, it doesn't always seem like it leaves enough room for a more kind of equal back and forth.
yeah.
And I think that both
Full
Buber and Marcel
indwelling.
have more of that.
Yeah, totally, totally. And just that, he says his philosophy actually, his ideas come from his plays, right?
Yeah.